Magnesium chelates. What are chelates? What are magnesium chelates? Citrate, malate, glycinate, amino acids. What is the difference of all of them? Our last magnesium video got quite a few questions, so we wanted to kind of address some of them and talk about chelates and magnesium chelates. And well, first off, what is a chelate?
Well, chelation is a term which means technically to bind to put together.
Okay.
And so what we do with minerals specifically is that we bind them to an acid. That acid can be one of a half a dozen different ones. And in general, the acid that we use, they all pretty much do the same thing. However, in some instances, as in the instance with magnesium, different chelates provide different rates of absorption and bioavailability depending upon the reason why you're taking them. Now, it's important to chelate minerals, especially major minerals, because most minerals in nature, in major minerals, calcium, magnesium, etc., are alkaline in nature.
Okay.
And the human body absorbs minerals in an acidic environment. And so by chelating them, we are not relying on the body's ability to acidify, which declines with age, by the way. And so by chelating them, when you swallow them already in supplement form, they're already acidic in nature. And that increases the absorption potential significantly.
So for a visual person, is a chelate, so a chelate is a citrate, it's malate or glycinate or an amino acid?
Now, those are examples of chelates, correct.
So for a visual person, is it a powder or a liquid?
No, it's a powder.
It's a powder.
Yeah, well, it can be either one, but mostly in supplements, it's powdered form.
So you add the chelate powder to the magnesium and you put them together in the same pill?
Well, yeah, but you have to bind them in a laboratory.
Oh, okay.
And then you put them in the pill, because it's not just having an acid next to a mineral in a capsule, for example. They have to be bound together bioelectrically.
Got it. And so what is the difference between acid and alkaline? Because you just brought that up, and I didn't even really realize how important that was to this discussion. I think a lot of people out there even are drinking those alkaline waters these days.
Yeah.
So what is the difference between acid and alkaline?
Well, the pH scale runs from 0 to 14, 7 being neutral.
Okay.
Anything above 7 is alkaline. Anything below 7 on the pH scale is acidic.
Acidic.
And as a general rule, there are some rare exceptions, but as a general rule, just remember that the body absorbs nutrients in an acid environment. The body detoxifies toxins in an alkaline environment. So acids for absorption, alkaline for detox.
Okay.
So when we're taking a supplement that has major minerals, you always want to look for not only the fact that it's chelated, but which chelates are being used. And they usually say so right on the label. Not always, but usually most companies do so.
And so what is the specific uses for different magnesium chelates?
Well, the two major ones, or the two major types, would be the citrate group and the glycinate group. So the citrate group would be citrate, malate.
Yeah, so you go to the store and you see that it says magnesium citrate.
Yeah.
And that would be for what purpose?
That would be primarily for elemental absorption.
Okay.
So you would want to take magnesium citrate during the day,
Okay.
preferably with a meal. Glycinate is a chelate that activates the sedentary, calming, relaxing effects of magnesium. So you would want to take that an hour or two before bed.
So glycinate is a chelate that's kind of ready for the alkaline environment.
Well, it's an acidic chelate. They all are.
But aren't you, whenever you're sleeping, aren't you alkaline?
Yes, but you still want to have
the absorption.
You still want to have the absorption.
Got it. And so our magnesium, with all this you see on the news and stuff like that, you see the people talking about the different uses for magnesium citrate and the different uses for magnesium glycinate. Are magnesium supplements necessary altogether?
Well, that's the age-old question. And that goes back to, can we get our nutrients that we need from food? And that's a debatable issue. But for the most part, it's not easy, even if you eat well. I mean, according to the National Institutes of Health, 50% of us are at least 50% deficient in the essential nutrients for optimal wellness.
Yeah.
And so are supplements necessary? In my opinion, they're absolutely the only way to save your life these days, because the food has been so degraded from the time it's planted in the ground till the time it's harvested prematurely to where it's over-processed, put in cold storage. All of this depletes nutrients. Now, we don't worry so much about depletion of major minerals because they're fairly stable. It's the vitamins we worry about. But in the case of magnesium, are we eating magnesium-rich foods? And are we eating them enough? Magnesium is in fruits and vegetables, and to some extent, grains. But almost every grain product, like breads, are all refined white flour. So they've taken virtually all the nutrients out and left nothing but starch. And so
in your opinion, supplements are necessary?
Are absolutely essential for optimal wellness.
Yeah.
Not necessarily for survival, but hopefully most of us want to live better and
not just
thrive, not just survive.
Yeah. So for the end of it, let's just take a short example of each one. Magnesium citrate is for what purposes and when should it be taken?
Citrate or citrate malate, either one, should be used during the day.
During the day with a meal.
And with a meal, because you always should take, with few exceptions, all your supplements with meals, because the meal prepares the stomach for absorption and digestion, and you might as well send your supplements right along with it at the point where you are experiencing higher levels of absorption and digestion.
Yeah.
And it's designed to increase the elemental bioavailability of the mineral magnesium. Then you would take your glycinate.
Well, no, the citrate is for magnesium glycinate is for the sedative part to help you sleep.
Correct.
And to help manage cortisol.
Correct.
Then what is magnesium citrate? What does it do?
It's providing magnesium on an elemental level for all the other biological functions. See, magnesium has a lot of functions in the body just besides being a sedative. It is essential for calcium absorption.
Okay.
Okay.
So magnesium citrate is
providing the elemental factors to increase the availability of the mineral internally.
Got it. Okay. Well, that really cleared up a lot. I think we actually have to do another video now. Fat-soluble vitamins, synthetic versus natural. fat-soluble vitamins, synthetic versus natural. And I know what you're all thinking right off the bat. Natural is always going to be better. But am I wrong or am I right?
Well, it depends on which nutrients we're talking about. If
Okay.
we're going to talk about fat-soluble vitamins, natural is the only way to go.
Okay, so some vitamins are called water-soluble and some are called fat-soluble. What's the difference?
Okay. The fat-soluble vitamins are A, D, E, and K. And what we mean by that is that they are stored in the liver and other soft tissues.
Okay.
So when the body has the ability to build up storehouses of these nutrients for future use.
Yeah.
Water-soluble nutrients, which include the B complex and vitamin C, are unable to be stored by the body for any length of time.
Like B.
Like all the B complex, vitamin C. These are water-soluble. They're going to pass out of the body through urine excretion relatively rapidly, which is why water-soluble nutrients should be taken on a daily basis.
And vitamin C is water-soluble
Yes,
too.
it is, along with the B complex.
Okay.
But when we talk about fat-soluble vitamins, the body has an ability to store a certain amount of them for a certain length of time.
And save it for when it's needed.
Yes.
Huh. So if that's the case, the many supplement companies that use synthetic fat soluble vitamins because it's a cheaper way, is there any problem with that?
Can be. Because the body can store these things, synthetic versions, depending on how much are taken, can rise to potentially toxic levels. Because the body, first of all, stores it. Second of all, it has takes a longer time to process the synthetic versions.
Oh, I see.
When you take a natural fat-soluble vitamin, the body knows what to do with it because it's called, internal wisdom. It's something that we are a part of nature. It is something that the body was designed to be able to do. And when you start synthesizing, or not synthesizing, that's another category altogether, but when you start creating synthetic versions of something that's going to potentially remain in the body for any length of time,
Oh, I see, yeah.
then we begin to get concerned about toxic buildup. In fact, vitamin A, which is one of my favorite vitamins, and one quick example, but we might want to talk about this in detail later. But I've often used vitamin A because it protects the mucosal membranes or linings of the body.
Yeah.
So that's the sinuses, the ears, nose, and throat, the genitourinary region, any place where the internal and external environment might commingle. And when you take adequate vitamin A, it prevents those tissues from becoming infected. So like when you get a sinus cold, and if you're not healthy and your immune system is not up to par, you can develop a post-secondary sinus infection. Well, vitamin A prevents that from occurring. And you need to use it oftentimes in very high amounts, which I have done and done so very successfully. But if you use a synthetic version of vitamin A and you try to go up to those elevated levels, you risk toxicity.
Yeah.
In fact, there was one study that looked at vitamin A toxicity from supplementation. And there were 11 people hospitalized during this particular period of time with vitamin A toxicity.
And they were all on synthetic.
Every single one of them was on an artificial synthetic vitamin A. None of them were taking natural vitamin A.
We should definitely make a video just about that study.
Oh, I think so, because I think it points out the potential pitfalls, not only of vitamin A, but D and E and the fat-soluble nutrients, and to a lesser extent, even the water-soluble ones.
So how can we find out when we buy a supplement at the store or a supplement company on a website? How do we know if it's natural or synthetic?
If you look at the label, it should say the source.
Okay.
For example, A and D would be from fish liver oil extract.
Oh, okay.
Or vitamin A acetate would be okay. So it should say on the label.
Well, what if but they use the word synthetic?
No, they won't use synthetic, but they'll use something you can't pronounce, and that's
okay. That's like
pretty
a
much
long word or something.
The dead giveaway, you know.
What are some benefits of natural fat-soluble vitamins?
Well, they are absolutely essential for immunity. As we've mentioned with vitamin A, it is a protective factor for mucosal tissue. Vitamin D is essential for your immune system. I remember during the pandemic, everybody was told to go out and get 10 minutes of sun a day. Why? Because vitamin D is manufactured in the body on your skin tissue when it comes in contact with sunlight.
Oh, I thought the sun was vitamin D.
Vitamin D, right.
And A.
No, vitamin D for the sun. Vitamin A has to be either ingested from diet, which is hard to get adequate amounts because vitamin A usually is found in things that people don't eat a lot of, like seafood. There's some vitamin A in animal proteins, but it's hard to get adequate amounts depending upon your own individual needs.
Got it. Fat-soluble vitamins, I think that alone, this whole discussion is definitely going to have to be revisited because I'd like to really try to get in and understand it a little bit better. But that's a great intro. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. The truth about fats. We did a fats and oils video a while back, and there's been a lot of questions on it. So we just wanted to address some of the concerns and thoughts that people had about that video. There's so much confusion about the types of fats, and they're so often misleading. Can you explain the different types of fats and their makeups?
Yeah. This is one of the most controversial and confusing things in all of nutrition. And the reason for that is primarily the medical institution. Fueled by the American Dietetics Association.
Yeah.
And those when it comes to nutrition, dietitians know far less about it than most lay people.
Yeah.
Because their philosophy is you can get every nutrient you need from food. And that has been disproven so many times.
Yeah.
But let's focus for now on fats. And the reason why they're so confusing is because the fats that are the most harmful to the human body are the ones that have been promoted, touted, encouraged to the point where entire nations have become brainwashed by something that is totally false. So with that in mind, let's just talk about the different types of fats. Okay. First of all, you can visualize fats on a ruler, on a spectrum. Okay? On one end, we have the polyunsaturated oils. On the other end, we have saturated fat. And then we have them in between. Okay? So unsaturated oils and polyunsaturated oils are recognized by being liquid at room temperature. So you set them out on the counter and they stay liquid, like corn oil, for example, which is the most popular one.
Yeah.
The next category down the spectrum are what we call the monounsaturated oils. These include olive oil and avocado oil. There are others, but those are the most common ones that you're going to see in a supermarket. Then we move down the line to the saturated fats. Most saturated fats are solid at room temperature, and they are highly dense and concentrated.
Like butter?
Like butter, like lard, bacon fat. There are two vegetarian sources of saturated fats, and that's palm oil and, well, that's the main one, palm oil.
Yeah, vegetarians.
Yeah, and you'll find that palm and coconut oil are solid, pretty solid at room temperature as well, because they're highly saturated. Now, what does all of that really mean? Well, oils in general are highly susceptible to the formation of what we call free radical activity. And free radicals are manufactured, they're spun off fat molecules when they become rancid. And they become rancid under two circumstances. One, exposure to the air, to oxygen, and two, by heat. And when you have both of them together, you're manufacturing billions of free radicals. Now, if we look at the structure, the molecular structure of these various fats, which I won't go into in detail because it can get rather confusing.
Yeah.
But suffice it to say that the unsaturated and polyunsaturated oils have what we call open bonds. That means if you were to magnify a molecule of these oils large enough, you would see little fingers coming off of the molecules. And on the end of those fingers is nothing. That's what we call chemically an open-ended bond. And
those are the ones that create free radicals.
Those are the ones that create free radicals because the oxygen in the air, or the oxygen it's generated during cooking, that oxygen free radical can attach itself to those open bonds.
So those would be considered the unhealthy.
Exactly.
So the healthy ones...
Exactly the opposite of what you've been told for 50 years.
Well, yeah, again, and we got that part. But so those would be considered the unhealthy, and the healthy ones would be the olive oil and the butter, which are the...
monounsaturates or saturates.
Monounsaturates.
And the reason why...
So anything with poly in front of it is going to be the...
run, don't walk.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But you see, the monounsaturates and definitely the saturated fats have almost no open-ended bonds.
Olive oil, butter, lard.
Yeah, avocado oil. And so when those oils are exposed to air, there's no place for the oxygen atom to attach.
Yeah.
So they do not become oxidized, they do not form free radicals, they do not become rancid easily. Now, that having been said, all fat should be kept cold, just because. But your monounsaturates, which is the foundation of the Mediterranean diet, by the way, those fats and saturated fats like butter and lard, bacon grease, you don't have to worry about oxidation because of their molecular structure, which is what makes them safe, because they can't become rancid, they can't become oxidized, and therefore can't form free radicals. The free radicals generated by unsaturated and polyunsaturated oils that specifically attack your cardiovascular system and are the number one cause of occluded or blocked arteries.
So for 50 years, we've been told that the polyunsaturated fats are the healthy way. Why is that?
It was a nasty, economical, money-driven, crooked campaign.
So without going further into that, because I already know where we're going with that, and we're going to make a whole video about that by itself, you're saying the polyunsaturated fats and not saturated fats are the cause of heart disease. Can you expand on that?
Yes, the free radicals generated through the oxidation of vegetable oils, polyunsaturated vegetable oils, margarines, those types of things. Those specific free radicals attack the muscle walls of the inner artery.
Yeah.
And when that occurs, it causes the DNA of those muscle cells to mutate, causing them to over multiply. This puts pressure on the internal and external walls of the artery and eventually could result in a hemorrhage. So the body lays down protective substances like a bandage to make sure the artery doesn't blow the hose.
Yeah.
And things like fibrin, fibrinogen, and so forth. And that sets the scene for minerals, specifically calcium, to stick to those particular sites. When the calcium sticks to the site, cholesterol sticks to the calcium. And pretty soon you've got a layer effect going on, which is slowly closing blood flow.
Got it. So since most of our diets are filled with this, and we can't really be completely, in the diet, you're going to slip up. You're going to eventually end up eating some type of polyunsaturated fat that's bad for you.
Especially if you eat out often.
So you already have free radical damage. What's the best way to combat that?
Well, there's two things. If you already have arterial damage due to these free radicals, then what we want to use is either an intravenous or an oral chelation process, which is going to be designed to remove the calcium ions from your artery.
Got it.
And once the calcium ions are gone, cholesterol can't stick there. So it becomes a moot point. If you want to protect yourself against further arterial free radical damage,
you should be taking a full spectrum daily, every day too.
Yes, you should be taking a full spectrum formula that is heavily weighted with antioxidant nutrients.
Antioxidants.
Because antioxidant nutrients are going to prevent further oxidation and free radical adhesion to healthy cells.
Fascinating. Can we really get all of our nutrients from the diet? There are a lot of dietitians that would say yes. I have heard that they're now starting to correct their long time of many years error in ways of thinking that. But there are a lot of dietitians who still think we can get all of our nutrients from food. You even have other health professionals who are saying all you need is a balanced diet and you'll get all the nutrients you need. Why is this not true?
Boy, that's a long story, but it's very interesting. First of all, the majority of us, the vast majority of us, we don't eat well.
You don't have time.
You don't have time. We grab this, you grab that. We love junk food. We're especially here in America, we are junk foodaholics.
Yeah.
The more you eat, the more you crave, and it becomes an addiction. So that alone presents an enormous problem.
Yeah.
But now let's talk about the people who, for the most part, try to eat healthy.
Okay.
Here's the problem. Unless you're growing your own food, your own fruit trees, your own vegetables, your own grains, and you're grinding the grain yourself, here's what happens. About 75, 80 years ago now, maybe we're pushing 100 years ago, you could get all the nutrients you need because we had what we called nutrient-dense or nutrient-rich foods. Those no longer exist. So, a quick rundown of what happens to your food. A farmer plants the seeds. He plants the seeds in farmlands that have been farmed for decades. Every time he wants to increase his yield or enrich his soil, he uses NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash. 3 minerals that are highly essential for healthy plants. But those plants also need over 50 other micronutrients
That he doesn't put.
that he never replaces. So after decades of planting, and the plants take up these minerals, harvest next season, pretty soon those soils are virtually depleted in all these other trace minerals.
Yeah.
Those trace minerals are essential for the formation and development of vitamins, the absorption and utilization of vitamins, not only just the trace minerals themselves, because trace minerals are what we call catalysts. They allow other biological functions in the body to take place, without which they cannot effectively take place.
So how does modern food processing rob even more of the essential nutrients besides what you just described?
And they do it professionally.
You see it all the time. You see even in the 2% milk where they take the fat out and then they say, it's fat free.
Yeah.
And then you look and then they added 2 cups of sugar. So even as simple as that.
Got to make it taste good, So, but let's take wheat, because we're a wheat heavy diet.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay,
You're talking about the
rolls,
bread,
muffins, cakes, pies, all of that. Well, the majority of flour that those goodies are made from is called enriched flour.
Enriched.
Okay. Now, the wheat kernel provides about 14 nutrients if it's grown on nutrient-rich soils.
Yeah.
When they refine that wheat into that white powder called white flour, which most things are made of, they strip out all 14 nutrients. Because what they're doing is they're bleaching that flour so it's pretty and white.
Oh, so it's pretty, yeah.
And so out go all those nutrients. And the reason why they call it enriched white flour is because they put 4 back. So you're only missing 10.
So that's why when you look at the label, it says vitamin this, vitamin that, vitamin
enriched with. But if somebody's robbing you from 14 nutrients and they give you 4 back, I don't call that enriched. I call that a con job.
Yeah.
And so there again, the processing, the cold storage. Do you think that your fruits and vegetables are picked plant and vine ripe? Do you really believe that's true? It's not.
No, I mean,
because if it did, they'd all be moldy and rotten by the time they got to your supermarket and you bought them.
And they'd be imperfect. And
we have in San Diego County a little community up in the mountains called Julian. Julian is quite well known and quite famous for their apples. They grow wide varieties of apples. Well, those apples come to ripening in September, October.
Yeah.
Okay. However, you can still buy quote-unquote fresh Julian apples in June, months and months later. How is that possible?
Well, how is it?
Well, the apples are picked prior to being prime, so they're slightly green, and they're put in cold storage just above freezing.
Oh.
And that puts them into suspended animation so that they don't continue to further ripen and they don't go bad.
Huh.
Which is why you can buy them year round.
Wow.
And when somebody, the supermarket, wants Julian apples in June, months after they should have been available, they just go in and pull out a bin full of apples, raise the temperature, spray them with a chemical ripening agent, and off to market they go.
Huh. I wonder if they taste different.
It's pretty hard to tell the difference.
Oh.
They might be a little more mealy. They might not be quite as crispy, but they're pretty good.
Huh.
It's called better living through chemistry. And not only are you robbing, because do you think those nutrients stay the same for months after months and months in cold storage? No.
What happens to them?
Well, they break down.
Oh, okay.
Remember, a lot of those nutrients are water soluble. They break down.
Oh.
And so it reduces the amount of available nutrients. So you've got poor farming techniques, you've got refinement, you've got bleaching, you've got cold storage, you've got overheating. There's just, we find a way to assault our food at every possible turn. And when we do that, each little step degrades that food's nutrient quality a little bit more.
So now that everyone is panicked, hearing all this, and it's contributing to the poor state of health in most people, how do we solve it? Then we have to take...
It's the simplest solution in the world. Take a full spectrum, multivitamin mineral formula every day of your life. Don't try to figure it out. Don't try to analyze it. Just do it. And you will be providing yourself with one simple action, the greatest health benefit and a health insurance that you can possibly do for your body. But you want to make sure that the supplement you choose has the full spectrum of nutrients. Right now we have identified at least 100 essential nutrients. There are vitamins, minerals, trace minerals, amino acids, phytonutrients from plants, which we used to get before all this processing. And those should be all rolled into one formula, not only for economics, but for convenience as well. And that, my friends, is true health insurance. Those little cards that you carry in your wallet that you pay a premium on, either through work or on your own, called health insurance, those cards aren't health insurance. Those are disease insurance.
Yeah.
Because the only time you're going to use that card is when you're sick.
And so, for an example, high vitality liquid from Phoenix Nutritionals, how many servings of fruits and vegetables are in something like that?
The phytonutrient content of that formula would equal about 6 to 8 servings.
That's incredible.
Plus which it has all the other things as well. And being in a liquid form, it is highly absorbable because, going back to a discussion of acids and alkalins, it is a highly acidic formula. And so when it hits the stomach just sets up a cheerleader row because the stomach is a naturally acidic organ.
It's ready for it.
And when you give it acidic nutrients, which is why we chelate minerals and all this other business that we've talked about for its acidic effect, the pH of that particular formula is about 4.5, which is very acidic. But when that hits the stomach is just so happy. It knows exactly what to do with that stuff.
Wow. Fascinating. Well, there you go.